Okay, we can start, and during this session, definitely many of participants join with us and start with some discussion, question. I'm Uroš, security architect in Creo company. Currently, I am working as security architect, but I am also Microsoft Security MVP in two categories. Defender XDR with all family actually XDR and Microsoft Sentinel and cloud security, and I'm also a couple of decade Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm also Pentest Plus CompTIA certified. My idea is to explain methodology. We will discuss about what is actually Azure Pentest and why is important today. What is actually compliance important topics with the regulatory drivers, and what is actually lessons from real world scenario with some incident in the past and actually lessons from the real world breaches with some lot of misconfiguration, insecure API, for example, weak identity control. That is one of the largest security vulnerability in Azure environment. And of course, what is actually currently breached with the trust imperative. My idea is to explain security is not only technical measure, but many customers, many partners would want to see what is actually cloud environment and how we secure this cloud environment because now cyber attack is more sophisticated and move from traditional on-premise to the cloud. And we must know how to make for many organizations Azure Pentest and to know actually what is the routine, what is the best practice with allow to company to be secure with sensitive workload and to ensure compliance and many challenge in that way. But in general, we have some benefit of Azure pen testing and after that, for example, we can detect cloud vulnerability before some attacker, and we must find a way how to secure sensitive data. Many PI and intellectual property to be in line with the compliance with the legal and industry standard and build this in this way customer trust through proactive security measure. And that is the best approach, for my opinion. And protect we are faced with a lot of insider threats, and to protect intellectual property in that way, it is very important. I will share with you what is the major security threats in Microsoft Azure with the point of view we are faced with a lot of stolen token from unauthorized access. And in many cases, attacker try to pivot between resources, and of course, the real scenario is to compromise normal account, and after that, we with the lateral movement, we have the attacker in the next phase. It is privileged account, of course, with a lot of action. To persistence with Active Directory, with data exfiltration and ransomware activity. But compromised third-party API with weak integration introduce many risks. And phishing with client secret and everything secret without using, for example, certificate-based authentication for application, it is also risk. I will explain some interesting use case, but public container leaking data with blob hunting and misconfiguration storage, it is definitely challenge. I mentioned malicious, I mentioned kernel employee, and the reconnaissance with search engine. Many attackers, of course, use tools, traditional shotgun to find exposed endpoints, but actually we can use different method. And very important is to understand what you can and what cannot test. In order to this comparison with the major Microsoft Azure security threats and pen testing use cases, actually how we control, how we recognize what cannot test in Azure. But with the point of view application and some other assets, virtual machine, what are all own. I must perform penetration testing for my own Azure virtual machine. It is definitely for my application, for my and definitely I will share, of course. I will prepare and I will share after presentation slides, and definitely thank you for your comment. It is definitely a challenge. But now, sorry, I try to share again. Can you see my screen now? I think yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Azure Pentesting tools and process, how we testing all process with phase. We can start with information gathering process, definitely. How we plan, how we scope, how we automated the vulnerability scanning, how we conduct manually penetration testing, external, internal, and reporting with remediation plan. And after that, what is the period of time for some retesting once again to revalidate all fix to be ensured, and definitely what is outputs, how to fix, how to accept risk with reopening, and different report marking. A lot of actually very important, and intruders conducts test with Microsoft Azure with combination both open source and enterprise level tools. And we have some list for best practice for tools for Microsoft Azure, how we work actually with these tools. But first steps is definitely to enumerate information about the tenant you are attacking and try to get some foothold. And based of this domain name, it is possible to know with the company if using Azure and get tenant ID, get other very important and valid domains in the tenant to get relevant information like SSO is enabled, mail configuration, valid user mail, and definitely we can use OSINT tools, check for leaks in GitHub and any open source platform to cloud contain credential intrinsic information in that way. Okay, we can start the first slide. Actually, to understand why we using and penetration test and how we define all of this action regarding penetration test. It is very important to control security assessment that simulates some real-world cyber attack scenario, and resource hosted on Microsoft Azure to detect some vulnerability before malicious actor exploit them. And Azure Pentest, unlike traditional on-premise pen testing activity, this is focused for cloud-specific component. For example, storage account, for identity access management, platform services, virtual machines, and etc. What is the goal? The goal is definitely to validate security posture of Azure environment by testing a lot of misconfiguration, privilege escalation path, weakness in our authentication of data protection, because we are facing with a lot of dark data. I have I'm experienced in implementation, for example, DLP solutions in the company, but many companies don't have any data flow. Many company doesn't know what is the critical data in the company, and if you don't know what is the critical data, how you protect your critical data? It is definitely we must be very proactive in vulnerability detection, but a lot of company mix that activity because I think it is necessary to specify difference between Azure Pentesting and traditional security activity. With vulnerability testing, you know that I can scanning automatic in order to detect some discover and vulnerability. For example, scanning tenant, scanning endpoints, scanning assets, definitely, but security audit, how we examine the policy and compliance requirement, but they do without any mimic live attack. Azure Pentesting is proactive, and definitely in testing of many defense, testing security control, and illustrate many real world attack. But frequent penetration test main security posture and infrastructure change and prevent data breach. It is actually what is the point. We must understand many things, but one of the most important things as you consider and elevate public cloud service in many situations with the point of view Microsoft perspective, it is critical to understand shared responsibility model in which security tasks in cloud provide handle and how we handle with the task, and the workload, the responsibility vary depending of software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, on-premise data center. But for all cloud deployment types, you own data and identity. You are responsible for protecting security of your data, your identity, on-premise resources, cloud component. Actually, you control vary of service type, and you always retain the following responsibility with the data, with endpoints, with account. We have actually now AI share responsibility model for detailed guidance for Microsoft with the role, with the best practice, and it is very important to identify gaps to improve cloud security. And of course, we are facing with a lot of sensitive information industry, but the requirement is to be compliant with the high standard, including GDPR, HIPAA, or PCI DSS tests, and Azure Pentest is used to make sure that application storage hosting in the cloud is always compliant. It must be compliant and also generate audit report that cloud be provide to some regulators, from clients, for partners, and etc. But GDPR with the data privacy law, it is very important with the strong security control to protect personal data and require proof of concept for this part. And of course, we are facing with also, for example, if you have payment of hard data, to enforce regular parent test and testing for system handling. NIS directive with the critical infrastructure regulation, for example, is also important in order to demand the robust cybersecurity measure and reporting for essential service, and of course, many benchmark, CIS benchmark, Azure security benchmark recommend penetration testing to validate configuration. And why is the matters here? What is the reason? Because compliance is not just about avoiding fine. It built just with the customers and partners, demonstrate due diligence and reduce many risk of breach. And actually, compliance with the regulatory driving is very important. But I previously tried to explain with a lot of vulnerability scanning, security audit, Azure Pentesting, with simulation, real-world cyber attack on Microsoft Azure to find exploitable vulnerability and assets actually impact. What is also challenge? What is the lesson learned? We are faced with a lot of misconfiguration, I mentioned, with a lot of insecure API. We are facing with a lot of different, for example, access token leakage. I will explain in detail later, but we also have proactive defense strategy for many organizations to using proactive testing and better prepare to involving cyber threats. One of the best approach, from my opinion, is unified security operation with Defender XDR, with Microsoft Sentinel, and Security Copilot, and generative AI actually help us in order to use automatic attack disruption, because attacker try to enumerate domain controller in early phase of stage of, and try to actually send some suspicious PowerShell script in order to found some actually in order to actually found misconfiguration and trust with the C command and control server. Security is definitely key point, and investor trust in business to found strike right balance between security and business, and the regulator Azure Pentesting testing show us many commitment to secure help with trust. And how we deal with that? Because Azure Pentesting doesn't end with compliance and protection. It is actually enhance operational and business value of cloud adoption directly by sealing blind spot, not covering in build tool. But key advantage is actually to detect cloud vulnerability, to found misconfiguration, to found insecure API, what I mentioned, weak identity and access management settings. It is very important to conduct security baseline testing on identity and access management approach to found. We are facing actually with a lot of regarding enroll permission privilege role And I think with a lot of, for example, global admin, okay, we are deal with the privileged identity management, but with a lot of accept permission, and it is not eligible. It is a permanent. Don't use just-in-time access approach. Okay, I'm today exchange admin, and I have rights with my privileged permission, and after that I have expired after 3 hours or 4 hours, and I think it is enough. But share with a lot of privilege permission, and not using just-in-time approach also with your virtual machine, network security group. Your virtual machine is publicly exposed on the internet without any protection. One of the good example is actually improperly secure blob container, and manager role assignment are able to be identified prior for some unauthorized access. With a lot of global admin, with a lot of privilege role permission and enter ID, we are a lot of facing with that, and how to secure sensitive data in the cloud, how to protect sensitive data in the cloud, actually, in order to reduce risk and fraud and penalties. But the record on customer for payment and medical data in Azure is a favorite. Through proactive testing, organization can fix vulnerability before attackers steal sensitive data set, which will mitigate threats on financial fraud of regulatory fines. But actually, using some compliance requirement with GDPR, with SOC 2 and PCI DSS is very important to impose to many industry. Azure Cloud Pentest assists many organizations how to produce audit reports, I don't know, with some requirement in order to prevent fines and fail audits. It is actually how we understand, and actually with a clear comparison of major Microsoft Azure security threats and how pen testing addressed and deal with that, we have a threat. For example, with the point of attacker steal some OAuth or GVT token in order to impersonate users and access resources. Pen test use case will be how to simulate token interception and replay attack, how to validate token expiration and refresh policy. I think it is very important, but check token storage and rotation policy. It is very important with the point of view access token leakage, because in the past we are faced with a lot of this actually cyber attack. Lateral movement, I mentioned how we test privilege escalation, PET, and network segmentation. Control in Azure Virtual Network, it is crucial. With the point of view lateral movement, we have compromised virtual machine, but compromise of any one resource lead to pivoting across many virtual machine, many storage, many service, and of course, compromise API, third-party API access with API authentication, input validation, token handling. It is very important. How to find a way to be proactive for vulnerable integration, expose sensitive data, or allow unauthorized action. It is crucial. With credential death, we are facing with a lot of situation, stolen credential, in application way. Application property is the heart of this action. And we have actually some best practice to protect application property. What is the critical? Critical when we register some application and we are using some best practice in that way to protect a lot of credential without using a certified approach, and self-signed certificate, for example, is very, very good approach instead to using uh, traditional client secret, for example, because manage identity as credential whenever possible. It is strongly recommended, and manage identity are both the most secure option and don't require any outgoing credential management. If the service for our application is used and doesn't run on Microsoft Azure, but does run to another platform that offer automate credential management, consider using identity from platform as credential. For example, we have GitHub action workflow can be configured as credential in order to eliminate, manage, and secure credential for the GitHub action pipeline. And many reasons for that, but one of the most important credential, including certificates and secrets, it is very important. And we have some, we have actually problem with a lot of high permission in Enter ID. And when we're using a graph with application and delegate permission, we are facing with a lot of give a lot of permission. And as a consequence, we have actually problem with the point of view with info, and how to reduce large number of this permission. I think it is a crucial. Of course, we are using also many other approach, but I think the most important is this. I give you some pen test use case. We can enumerate storage account, we can test access control and verify SAS token security, but the blob hunting and misconfiguration storage is very often because public exposed Azure blob container leaking sensitive file. With the point of view insider threats, we can simulate insider scenario, checker backroll, validate just in time what I mentioned, but malicious employee misuse privileged access. Of course, perform some external footprinting and validate proper firewall and network security group configuration with the point of view network security is very important. Attacker use Bing, attacker use Shodan to find exposed endpoints and services, and many other regarding. But I think it is very often how it is exploited to mention and what is pen testing focus action. And finally, we have a very important part in our strategy and definition regarding penetration platform and everything that is actually rule of engagement with some category, with some actually what is allowed and what is not allowed in that way. And actually we have to be sure we can test our own resource, the scanning other tenant, it is definitely not allowed. Denial of service attack, with the point of view performance testing, we can load testing on our application, but denial of service attack is not recommended. With the point of view monitoring, we can simulate attack for alerts, but not allow is actually some action like large scale fusing and definitely with comparison of major Microsoft Azure security threats and penetration use test, we have additional action, too much fuzzing of traffic generation that is also not allowed in the automate testing when we have large amount of traffic are sent to across Azure network. And breaking acceptable user policy, it is a violation of acceptable use policy in action. In some action, activity exceed agreed scope of violation with the point of view Microsoft acceptable use policy is not with the rule of engagement, but we have conditional access and mobile application management policy, for example, and access control can be checked by penetration tester with Microsoft Intune. We can use container escape attempts to testing expect some privilege escalation in Azure function or Kubernetes platform and share service environment in that way, but any success must be reported to Microsoft and related risk for some confidential data. Performance of application and ability to handle large number many situations can be tested. That is also challenge. We must follow the way to protect all of this with the point of view defense, but the rule of engagement is it is very important. Actually, that is a formal agreement. You can define how the test will be conducted to be ensured to be safety, to be legal, with clarity. It sets some boundary and expectation for both and client and testing team. I can define some scope, what is actually scope my testing with Azure services and environment. I can detect what is out of scope in production critical system, third-party services, and of course, what is time frame. Define start with define end date, including testing windows to avoid business disruption. What about with communication in order to establish point of contact and escalation procedure for critical finding of incident with the point of view legal and compliance to be ensured to have written authorization from system owner and of course align with the Microsoft penetration testing rule of engagement and security requirement. Authorize activity. List of allowed technique, vulnerability scanning, exploitation with the limits, and DOS attack, phishing, accessing with the known data, what is actually prohibition. That is very important to know. Many safety measures to be ensured tests don't impact availability or integrity of production system, and we can use control environment where possible to include some remediation guidance and retesting process and everything in order to find the best way. Agree with some severity rating and delivery timeline and everything. Step-by-step approach is to collect inventory and mapping data flow to definitely to understand the environment before testing. We can conduct some automating vulnerability scanning in order to detect some common vulnerability across system in efficient way. And of course, manual exploitation weakness in order to identify the application and network segmentation and etc. In real scenario, check based on domain name, it is possible to know with the company using Microsoft Azure, get a tenant ID and mention valid domain, relevant information like SSO. I'm using, for example, Austin tool, check the leaks in GitHub or any other open source platform that could contains credential of interesting information, password reuse, leaks or password spraying, by credential to employee, common phishing credential of OAuth application, third-party breach, vulnerability in Azure host application, service-side request forgery with access to metadata endpoint, and many actions, subdomain takeover, other Azure service configuration. If some developer laptop is compromised, can find this info. Or inside some Azure profile JSON file contains info about logging user from the past. Cloud config contains some information about subscription, service principal entry JSON, I don't know, service principal entry bean and Masal token cache bean is very, very interesting in that way. And we can use some Azure Entra ID tooling in order to found and to enumerate both Entra tenant and Azure environment to avoid detection. But IP, you need to compromise a valid IP. IP whitelisting is very important. Use geo restriction, find where the user lives or where the office of the company gets some IP from the same city on browser, maybe only the browser from certain operation system, Mac, Linux, Windows, is allowed. You can also try with the compromise service principal credential, as they usually limited and login in that way. I mentioned after bypassing, you might be able to get back your initial setup and you will still have access, check some conditional access policy, MFA bypass, and everything. And trade enumeration privilege. By default, any user should have enough permission to enumerate things such users, groups, roles, service principal, Azure enumeration, and etc. It is also action with that way. But actually, we are using a lot of tool. What I not mention, I think it is very important to understand, define a role, responsibility to ensure engagement is structured. We have client system owner, we have penetration tester with security consultant, we have Azure administrator, cloud engineer, support tester by granting some temporary permission or creating some test environment, implementing some fix and hardening measure, compliance officer with risk manager to be ensured the test align with regulatory framework, but review reports from compliance and risk application with the point of view role and responsibility. And of course, we have incident response team, maybe optional project manager, engagement lead to coordinate timelines, communication, escalation procedure. It is very important to take into account regarding all of these role-based access control, approval workflow, and many other action regarding this action in order to found vulnerability. And we have actually Azure Pentest process. I try to find this slide because it is very important to explain. Okay, I can share with you this scheme. Okay, and I will do. Yes, information gathering, inventory subscription resource group, I don't know, network security group, identity, service principal, risk, penetration, Azure map, data flow. Output is actually some asset matrix, output is data flow diagram, and cloud threat model. It is the initial information gathering. After that, we have planning and scoping with the rule of engagement, with the IP authentication methods, path of escalation, in order to give priority of internet exposed asset and identity path and sensitive data store. But our plan is to test with some MITRE attack framework, OWASP, or CIS Azure benchmark. VPN scan of some virtual machine is interesting. In the third phase, automated vulnerability scanning in order and find and remove some duplicated and tune to minimize noise and false positive. But tune scan profile, driving manual work, and etc. will be helping that way. Manual penetration testing actually it's the great place for technique with the OWASP Web API, Cloud Top 10, some proof of concept, network and segmentation, lateral movement, peering some network security group bypass, expose some private links, weak SAS token, blob lake access, queue poisoning, key vault policy bypass, and of course some identity denial of resize and identity of access with the point of view intra ID role escalation. With the point of view reporting, it is very important to have very executive summary with engineering workbook, evidence pack, rank in order to found defect of SIA triad and compliance. Of course, with remediation guidance, we have actually step-by-step fixed refines policy optional within in the infrastructure as a code, some snippet and match with the developer to component to control where design change are to be made and filed. But what is challenge? Network security group correction, API out patterns, storage firewall, key vault control, CI/CD guardrails, and after that we have actually action for end testing. Once again, revalidate all fix after remediation, login and alert. Now identify some actually TTP action, but fix and accept risk to be reopened with the proof different. Make report making is very important. To be compliance with support, legal framework, and of course to control some indicated how Pentest Azure can support some audit requirement. What is the best tools? For my opinion, some intruders conduct tests in Microsoft Azure in order to help us and found combination of open source and enterprise level, but you can use different tools, for example, Nessus vulnerability scanning to detect common vulnerability exposure management, insecure configuration, path, gap, and everything in that way. You can use many other pen test tools for your work, but Power Zur is very good. I can test bug role, token abuse, lateral movement scenario with this tool, in post exploitation, privilege escalation in Microsoft Azure. Microburst is very good in order to detect some exposed services, storage account, weak configuration. Cloud Brute is good for brute force enumeration cloud asset, but in order to find exposed exploits and misconfiguration service is very good. Of course, Metasploit framework to test some real-world attack scenario with Azure host application, in order to find the best way how to monitor and analyze this traffic, network traffic for anomaly during testing. We can use the network traffic analysis like Wireshark, and lot of other. Azure car is very good to get the information about Azure subscription resource configuration in order to identify some misconfiguration and everything in that way. And making Azure Pentest strategy, it is a very important topic in order to understand and creating involve. We must define very structural approach in line with the security best practice, compliance requirements, and Microsoft rule of engagement. We must define, first of all, some objective with business priority, how to protect sensitive data, how to be ensured with regulatory compliance, but to exclude production critical system unless explicitly approved, but establish the scope of pen testing with virtual machine, with storage account, with networking, with identity. What is our exact scope of pen testing? And after that, you can follow Microsoft guidelines for pen testing in Azure in order to better understand Microsoft rule of engagement, but in order to avoid prohibit action, phishing, DOS, accessing other tenants, it is very important to understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And of course, include automate scanning, manual exploitation, and recognized frameworks like OWASP, like NIST, and many other uh, other framework. Choose tools, plan for compliance to be ensured the proper documentation for audit, and of course, legal authorization, data handling policy, set boundary with the rule of engagement, and execute testing in order to validate identity, access control, network segmentation is very important. Letter of attestation for compliance includes some phased and of course scheduling regular pen tests as a part of security life cycle, how to integrate lessons learned into a cloud security strategy. It is very important to understand. It is actually my idea to present with 1 hour. And what is do you have any comment, any share some with the point of view best practice with your perspective? Can you share with us some experience in that way in order to better understand everything from your side? Do you have any idea? Do you have any question regarding this? Please, if you have additional question, I will share this presentation. I will share additional link and useful what I currently using. But many question is how we support penetration testing. What is the type of penetration testing? What is some best practice for conducting penetration testing in Microsoft Azure? And how we typically permitted to service such Azure Virtual Machine Application Service Key Vault, Azure SQL, and many questions in that way in order to find the best strategy with penetration testing. But I share with you with privilege escalation, post exploitation, persistence. Once you know how is Azure environment structured and what service are be used, you can start looking for a way to escalate privilege, move laterally, perform other post-exploit attack, maintain persistence, privilege escalation, post-exploitation, persistence ID, and actually this is how we understand some Azure pen tester and red timer methodology in that way. But I think it is very important to understand all of phase, all framework for engagement from reconnaissance, threat modeling, exploitation, privilege escalation, persistent techniques, accessibility to maintain access with service principal, automation account, backdoors, and how you validate detection and responsible capability for persistence attempts. I think it is very important. And align map finding to MITRE Tech to the Cloud Ops and Azure Security Benchmark. I think it is crucial. Okay, this is actually the basic approach. What is my idea for today, and during the next session, in the next period of time, I will show the practical session in order to better understand all of this methodology. Do you have any question for this session today? Yes, please.
Hello, it's Marcin here. Yeah, thank you. It was very useful. I've been working as DevOps engineer, so I'm familiar with a certain concept, but I like your point about data flow. Usually it's like some kind of request to open something on a particular port, but yeah, you sometimes it's not very often I find it that it's not documented what's open and how the data is flowing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yes, please continue. Yeah.
And just from your perspective, is working in security a 9-to-5 job, or sometimes you are called like late time in the evening? And second question is how you think what's the best way to start working in that space from certification? Yeah, how to pretty much transition from, for example, DevOps engineer to security auditing?
Yes, that is a very good question. Security auditing, but I think it is better to use DevSecOps framework in that transition. And it is definitely I recommend this way. We must understand Devil's goal. Devil's goal deliver feature quickly and reliably, but with point of view security, we must validate system meets security and compliance requirement without introducing risk, but move from security as to DevSecOps in order to automate security check with static code analysis, vulnerability scanning into pipeline. I think integrated security into CI/CD, making goals, configuration baseline, change records for compliance frameworks. DevOps emphasizes automatization, audit require proof of concept, and the documentation evidence you mentioned. Shift from developer convince to last privilege and role-based access control. I think implemented last privilege model and enforce MFA. It is very important with the point of view security. Use Azure policy and blueprint to enforce compliance automatically with compliance mapping. DevOps monitor performance. Audit requires some security posture monitoring. But Defender for Cloud, CM solution to compliance dashboard and everything lot of action. We must prepare structural report for auditors, pen test results, vulnerability remediation timeline, risk assessment. We must define approval workflow for change impacting compliance. We must define some roadmap from traditional DevOps to DevSecOps, security audit, and everything. And it is definitely a good approach. But please share me in the chat the first question. You mentioned a lot of details, and I try to found the best way to answer for your question. But I think with the point of view, I'm also DevOps, and I'm working with the day-to-day operation with security team. I think mindset shift with DevOps goal and security audit goal, it is I think crucial in that way in order to better understand this approach transition for DevOps perspective to security audits. Definitely.
Thank you.
Do you have any comment? Please share me the first question in the chat, and I'll give you answer definitely. Okay, that is all from my side. I really apologize because I have rescheduled this session 2 times, and but if because I have 187 attended this session, but if you have missing some point of everything, I will share with you, and of course I will share you recording, and I am looking forward to give all answer for your question, and also I definitely apologize for a schedule 2 times because I'm very busy. Thank you all. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Nadav, and all of you. And this session will be acceptable in our meetup group, and I will share a recording session. If you have additional question, please give me in the chat or my LinkedIn inbox, or share with our group, and we discuss. And I promise in the next period of time some practical session in this way in order to show you some realistic pen testing techniques. Thank you very much, and have a nice rest of day. Bye bye.
Very much. Thank you. Bye.